Alright, Chapter 1. This is the version that should be a little bit more animated. And Chapter 1 is, it's not my destiny, or professional golf is not my destiny. 2-part story. First part, I'm in the MVGA Mid-Am, or Mid Senior Metropolitan, and I'm playing the 9th hole. It's 424 yards against the wind. I hit driver. I'm sitting out there about 150 to 150 yards out. And choose to hit pitch and wedge. Now, I normally hit my pitch and wedge in the 145 to 150, but I had a good lie, left side of the fairway. Everything looked pretty good. Pin was in the middle, and I just felt that I could get that pitch and wedge there. So I hit the pitch and wedge, bam, smacked it. It was perfect. High in the air, driving in there, ends up at the back of the green. Still on the green, but since the pin was the middle, ended up about 25 feet away. Make the first putt, downhill, kind of slider to the right. Putt ends up to be about 4 or 5 foot short. But take that second putt, still kind of a slider to the right, downhill putt, hit it, bam, it goes in. Now, you know, title of this chapter is Professional Golf is Not My Destiny. And as it turns out, you know, you get a nice little 424 yard hole, hit driver, pitch and wedge, make the par. So that sounds like good for professional golf. But then next hole, number 10, 415 yard downwind. Hit the drive, bam, I'm sitting about 140, 145 yards out. And I'm looking at that and I'm going, I don't think I can get the A wedge there. It's downwind, but I don't think I can get the A wedge there. So I just hit the pitch and wedge 155 yards against the wind. I'm going to take a little bit off of the pitch and wedge and try to hit it at 145, 150 yards. So I hit the shot, and then I walk out to the green. And as I go by the pin, I fix my ball mark. It's about 8 inches off to the right of the pin. Nicely played if the ball wouldn't stop. But the ball didn't stop. So I continued to walk. Took about 4 steps, made it to the end of the green. Took another 2-3 steps down, a little pitch, and another step and a half up so that I get to my ball. It's off the green, downhill lie, maybe 18, 25 feet from the hole. Still, lying 2, 18, 20 feet from the hole, line up my pitch, hit my pitch. Now I'm 20 feet below the hole. 20 feet below the hole, lying 3. Got a long par putt. Hit that putt, end up 4 foot short. Hit another putt. Missed it. Hit another putt. So now take the double bogey for the hole. That's why I'm not going to be a professional golfer. But I already knew this, all right? And I knew this from my experience 6 years earlier. 6 years earlier, I had walked into, 6 years earlier is like 2011, maybe 7 years earlier, 2011, out there, and coming up to my 50th birthday the next year. And when you turn 50, you're eligible to go in the senior tour, for the PGA Senior Tour. Now, in the years before, I hit my drivers long, but you know, when you hit the ball 250, 260 yards, you're not going to be a professional golfer. And besides, I cannot putt, and I've never been able to chip. But it turned out that in 2011, I went into a driving range and talked to a guy out there, and he had been a professional golfer himself and actually made a little money on the tour. I don't think he ever won, but he made a little money on the tour, had a good reputation, had a driving range. And I talked to him, I said, you know, when I hit the ball, people are like, oh, that's going to be a mile. But my ball goes up there, kind of lands softly and just stops. And he says, you know, maybe if you had a different shaft on your driver, you might be able to hit it longer. We'll give you an extra stiff shaft with a low kick point. He put that on one of my extra driver heads. I think it was a 320. I know it was a TaylorMade, but I think it was a 325i. It might have been an R7. And he put that club on there, and I smacked that ball. And wouldn't you know it, now I'm hitting the ball well over 300 yards. It's like crazy. It's like go from 250, 270, sometimes roll out a little bit more, to hitting the ball over 300 yards. Now, you can't make a living on the senior tour hitting the ball 260, 270, but when you start hitting it 300 yards, you know, there's a chance there. But I still got the chipping and putt part. Now, one of the things that played into this factor out here was I knew that the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base had started to implement a policy that really is against the law. It's against the Professional Services Act. But they were trying to reduce salaries, and they made a concerted effort to reduce salaries significantly for the contractor personnel. So I'm hitting the ball 300 yards. I know that my contract is not going to be renewed at the current rate, and so I spent a lot of that winter chipping and putting in my basement. Putting mostly in my basement, obviously you don't chip too much. And worked and worked and worked. Because I knew that if I could just fix my putting, I could have a relatively good chance at, you know, at least competing for a while. And besides that, my plan going out of the winter of 2011, 2012 was to try to make the senior tour in the summertime. You know, I turned 50 in June. Try to make the senior tour, try to do a little bit of professional golf, but then also try to run for Congress in November. I'd be unemployed, but that's all right. We had a little money saved up. It's fine. I didn't have to actually work there, and it gave me an opportunity to try to do two things that I really wanted to do. But as it turns out, the company that I worked for won their contract, or won the contract, the follow-on contract. Now, I fully expected to be fired after that, because I knew that what the base was doing in awarding their contract was getting companies to cut things by half. I mean, this is how stupid it was. At one point, I interviewed with another company that had won one of these contracts, and they were telling people that not only was the salaries in half, but whenever you got vacation day for like a holiday, such as President's Day, those kind of holidays, or Christmas and New Year's, they were only going to pay you 4 hours for that holiday, and then during the rest of that week, you had to make up those hours. All right, that's how stupid the contracts were that Wright-Patterson was awarding to the companies in order to cut salaries basically from $100,000 to $55,000 a year. Anyway, that was a little sidetrack, but it comes out now. My company won the contract. They won it in March or February-ish. And they were a subcontractor, so they didn't actually win it, but they were on the winning team that was on it. And to play the game, in order to make it so that the base didn't look like they were breaking the law, the company actually continued to pay us at our previous salaries. Initially, they told us it would be for 30 days. The reason they told us was for 30 days is because the general had a matrix. All right, he said he knew that the professional services clause would not allow companies to have a lot of turnover, right? So he started to track how much turnover each of these contracts cost. Because, for example, one of the other units that had implemented this contract had lost 19 of their 21 engineers when the contract was awarded. So now the general says, oh, I know this is against the Professional Services Act, so therefore I'm going to start tracking it, and we're going to have how many people were turned over at the 30-day period. So my company, in order to make it look like they weren't breaking the law, continued to pay their old salaries until the 30-day period. But then the general got a hold of that knowledge, so they actually continued it for 60 days. All right, so for 60 days they were telling us, oh, we can't do the math to tell us how much we're going to end up paying you. And the main reason is because they would have had to report to the government how much turnover there was. And of course, as soon as people were told that their salaries were cut in half, they quit. Most people quit, as a matter of fact. So now we go into negotiations. I call them negotiations. My supervisor comes in and he says, hey, we've been awarded a contract. We finally have done the numbers, and the salary that we're proposing to you is $57,000 a year. Now I'm making $100,000 a year. They're proposing $57,000. I said, Eli, I'm not working for $57,000 a year. And he goes, well, what would you work for? And I said, $100,000 a year. And he says, oh, no, we can't do that. And so I said, all right, Eli, if you're not going to get anywhere close or something more reasonable, $57,000, tell me, how do you plan to end our relationship? Is there paperwork you're going to do? Are you going to notify me? This, and he says, about being fired. And he said, no, we're not going to fire you. I said, Eli, we have an agreement. All right, we negotiate our contracts. We have a written agreement. You've been paying me $100,000 a year. You need to terminate the contract. He goes, oh, no, we're not going to do that. And I said, Eli, then you're going to pay me, right? You're going to pay me what is in our agreement. And he shrugged his shoulders. Now, I go back and I look at my agreement. My agreement says, hey, we are in an agreement. Both parties agree to the salary, and if somebody doesn't like it, then either party has the opportunity to terminate the agreement. There's nothing in there that says that they can change any part of the agreement that we had signed. So I go back, and nothing was said after that. And I go, hey, I hope everybody knows that I'm being paid $100,000 out here. If you don't fire me, you're going to have to pay what we have in our agreement. And there was a whole bunch of shrugs and this and this and that and whatever. Bottom line is, they never came back and said definitely that they're going to change the salary, and they definitely didn't fire me. So now I'm in a conundrum, right? They said, oh, if you don't like what it is, you got to quit. I said, I'm not quitting. I got a contract. It says I got $100,000, right? So here I am for nearly 6 months thinking that I'm going to lose my job, go try to play golf, try to make it on the senior tour, and then run for Congress on the other end and spend all my time shaking hands and all that kind of stuff. And now I got a contract, and the company, it's like, now what am I thinking? I got a contract. I got a $100,000 contract. How can I quit? Right? It'd be irresponsible of me for my family to quit a $100,000 job. So I resigned myself to the fact that it was not my destiny to be a professional golfer. Alright? Turns out it's my destiny to reform the Ohio judicial system.